So first of all, I want to welcome you all to the second European workshop on non-intrusive load monitoring. And I want to begin by just saying a few thanks. So first of all, to Jack Kelly sitting here at the front. So he's been our local organizer for the day. He's the reason why we have these great facilities here at Imperial and this brilliant lecture theatre. So thanks a lot. Also to Peter and Nikki at Green Running. They've helped a lot with the organisation over the past few months and taking care of all of the website, the registrations, all of the social media and name tags, all of this sort of stuff. So thanks a lot to them. And also one final one to Jim Manning and British Gas, who've kindly sponsored the event. So this is the reason why we can bring in such a high-profile keynote speaker, but also provide the refreshments and everything throughout the day, while crucially keeping the event free to attend. So thanks to all of you. So I've just got a few logistics to blow through before we get to the meat of the presentation. So first of all, the fire exit. So if there is a fire alarm, you want to exit through this door here, follow it around to the right and down the stairs. That's your exit route out of the building. And the toilets are located, again, if you just go out of these doors and turn left, you'll see this corridor. You want to turn left at the end of this corridor, right at the end of that one, and the gents are on the right, the ladies are on the left. Those of you who have been keeping an eye on my emails might have noticed that there is going to be a tube strike starting later today. So I think the latest is that the tube strike will, all tubes will stop at 6:30 p.m. today, but I think they're going to be ramping down from about 6-ish. So the advice is for everyone to complete their tube journeys by 6 p.m. today. The tube strike will continue throughout tomorrow until the end of the day tomorrow. So if you were planning on using a tube between those two times, you probably want to plan an alternative route by bus. If you're struggling, please speak to me at lunch or anyone else who looks local, and I'm sure we'll be able to help you out. So also, I think the advice is that buses and roads are going to be busier than usual between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. today. So if you are planning on getting a Eurostar or a flight or something that you can't miss, please allow extra time to make your journey. Okay, so moving on to Wi-Fi. So if you don't have access to the Edgerome network, and if you haven't also been reading my emails before today and haven't signed up to the Imperial College network, you can do that now if you have a mobile internet connection or borrow someone else's laptop. The two important things that you need is this URL here. It's guestaccess.imperial.ac.uk, and also the code conf 90335. So once you've put those in, you should get a username and password, which you then be able to enter once you've connected to the Imperial Wi-Fi network, and hopefully then you should have Wi-Fi for the rest of today. So I'm just going to put the URL and the conf code at the bottom of the slides in case you're still writing it down and need it to connect. So also we're hoping, it should all be live, that we're going to be streaming most of this workshop via a Hangout on there. It should also go live out on YouTube, and also end up on YouTube so it can be watched back afterwards. So the idea is that I'll cut up the presentations into individual videos, and hopefully you should be able to watch any of the talks backwards afterwards. So I think I've spoken to all of the main presenters today, but if any of the people who are giving 1-minute lightning talks would prefer not have their talk broadcast live or put on YouTube afterwards, please just talk to me beforehand and we won't broadcast that session. Okay, so in terms of social media, we've got a NILM workshop Twitter handle, so those that are that way inclined, please tweet about today. But we've also set up a LinkedIn group. So if any of you guys are having good conversations today and you want to maintain contact afterwards, please just put an introduction on the LinkedIn group, and it's a great way to stay in contact with other people you've met today. So I think that's all of the logistics that I wanted to breeze through first. So moving on to the reason why we're here, which is the field of non-intrusive load monitoring, also known as NILM, also known as energy disaggregation. So I think these are all synonyms for each other. And they're all describing the problem which we've been looking at for a while, which is how we can use the total energy consumption monitored at a single point in the building and separate that into individual appliances or loads. So this is exactly what I'm showing here on this slide. So here we've got individual appliances colored by blue and green and so on, and this is really the output that we want to produce from non-intrusive load monitoring algorithms. So the field has actually been around for a while. It's been probably around for 30 years, but it's only really in recent years that it started to take off. And those of you who are a bit eagle-eyed might recognize this from my blog. This is a graph of the number of publications number of publications per year that have cited George Hart's 1992 seminal work. So the good thing here is that pretty much every non-intrusive load monitoring paper cites George Hart's work. So this is a good gauge on number of publications per year, and you can really see this rapid increase somewhere around 2010. So my best guess for where this spike comes from is probably due to the increased interest in this field as a result of smart meter deployments that are currently happening at national scales. So yeah, real increased interest in the field, and this is why workshops like this are starting to spring up. So just to give you a bit of context around previous conferences that have been held within this field, the international workshop was first held in 2012 in Pittsburgh, organized by Zika Coulter and Mario Burgess. And this was really the first time that anyone had established some community or some meetup for people working in this field. So I think the workshop managed to pull together something like 15 presentations into one afternoon. So it was pretty dense in terms of the information that was communicated, but it was a really useful event in terms of getting people together and presenting their work for the first time. So the second international workshop was held in 2014 in Pittsburgh. This was also hosted by Zika and Mario, but this time it took on more of a kind of traditional academic conference feel. So here there was a proper paper submission process, peer review process, and then the accepted papers were either presented as full talks or as posters at the conference. And an interesting thing about this workshop as well was that it also co-located with a second day of talks, which was organised by Pekin Street and the Wiki Energy project as well, which deals with I guess more broader energy analytics beyond just energy disaggregation. And then finally, in September last year, we hosted the first European workshop, also here at Imperial. And this was the first time that we'd really located something like this outside of the US, so we're really unsure whether it was really warranting a European meetup. But the outcome of it was definitely there was demand for it, and I think because of the success of that last event was the reason why we organised this follow-up one this year and the reason why we're here today. So this brings us up nicely to what we're doing today, and this is a brief overview of the agenda, so I'll just talk you through it so you have an idea of what's coming today. So after I finish this introduction, I'm going to hand the floor over to Mario, who will be giving the keynote talk. So we've allocated a whole hour from Mario's talk, so there should be lots of time for questions at the end, so please think them up while he's talking, and hopefully we can get a bit of discussion going afterwards. And then immediately before lunch, we have a half-an-hour session dedicated to what we're calling poster lightning talks. So this is when each of the people who have brought a poster today will stand up the front with one slide behind them and have 1 minute to pitch their poster to the whole room. So the aim of this session is that everyone in the room will understand everyone's poster. So then when the lunch and poster session rolls around at midday, you'll then be able to go straight to the posters that you're most interested in and hopefully engage in some great conversations. So after lunch, we've got an academic talk session. So we'll have 2 talks, one by Mingjin, one by Stephen. Before we have quite an interesting session, which is a talk about a non-intrusive load monitoring evaluation tool, which an MSc group here at Imperial have been working on for the past few months. So I'm really hoping this will also stimulate discussions about how we can better evaluate disaggregation approaches. So then after the coffee and networking event, we've got 2 industry talks, one from WATI and one from EDF. So I'm really excited to hear kind of this new perspective on the problem and also hopefully some interesting introductions to new data sets that are emerging in recent months. And then finally at 4:30 today, we'll have a roundup from the day. Hopefully we'll hear about what you liked and didn't like about today and maybe what we could do if we were to plan a future event. But also we'll talk about, for those of you who are around tomorrow, what we'd like to cover on that day. So I'll talk about tomorrow in a bit more detail, but really we want to leave it open so that you guys can suggest topics that you want to cover in that session. And then we'll close the day officially at 5, but for those of you who don't need to shoot off to try and avoid the tube strike, we were thinking of going for drinks. Oops, sorry. One other thing I wanted to cover was the rooms that we're going to be in today. So we've got 2 rooms booked. All of the talks will be in this room, but all of the refreshments and lunch and posters and so on will be in room 341. So that was the room that you were in just now where you registered and so on. So as I was saying, at 5 o'clock, if you can stick around, we're thinking of going for drinks at this beautiful quad just down the road in Imperial. I think the bar is right at the end of this walkway, and there's lots of seating and so on. So as long as the weather stays dry, I think this is a good option for us. And one thing that I think we should ask you guys to do is to keep your name badges on. So we've told all of the staff there that if they see these logos, then they should let you in. But normally I think it's one guest per Imperial student. So yeah, fingers crossed they'll let us in. So we'll lead you all there at 5 o'clock. But just in case you get lost, this is how close it is and the route we're going to take. So we're going to exit out of the main entrance exit to the Huxley building, hopefully the one you came through this morning. We're going to turn right. And then take the first right again, and hopefully you'll see the entrance on your left. And the name of the bar that we're going to, that's 568. Is that it? Great. So you can ask people for that if you get lost. But I think we'll probably move en masse, and if we stick together, I'm sure you have no problem finding it. So I mentioned just now that we added a second day to this conference quite recently, based on the demand that we saw when people signed up to the workshop. And these are just some ideas that we were thinking about discussing tomorrow. So one thing that we thought about splitting the day into two halves, and in the morning we'd have some discussions about real applications of energy data beyond energy disaggregation. So maybe looking at what we can do with lower frequency smart meter data, and yeah, really what we can tell or what analytics we can provide beyond just attempting to disaggregate it. And then in the afternoon, we were thinking of having a focused discussion, crash course, maybe even hack afternoon around NILM TK. So this is an open source toolkit that I've been working on along with Jack and Nippon over the past few years, and really talking about how we can build a community project around this tool rather than us just writing the code. That's the plan. So then I think we'll finish the day tomorrow at 4 o'clock-ish. So hopefully that will allow you all enough time to complete your journeys. And if you're flying out that evening or catching Eurostar, again, give us a shout, and hopefully we can give you a hand planning your travel. Okay, so I think that's all of the things that I wanted to cover just in this introduction.